Hey, today's day 6 of my 30-day challenge. Had a bit of a long day. I went to work in the morning. I did my running during the day, which it was about 35 to 36 degrees, and it was quite hot, and you know, my body is a little bit fatigued, and I spent the rest of the day with family, and I haven't had the chance to really take care of my body today. Yesterday in my video I talked a little bit about the fact that my foot, I've got some tendon pain there, and you know, I wanted to take this opportunity while it's about 10 o'clock at night, and I need to get the video up as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to do a quick one while I actually do what I would normally do before I go to bed, to make sure that I'm recovering properly and just making sure I'm loosening up some of my muscles, some of my fascia in my lower extremities, my legs, etc., which at the moment, while I'm doing a lot of running, is taking a lot of the impact and actually going through a lot of muscle growth and things like that. Now I'm going to start off just talking about my foot and what's going on there. So there's a muscle that starts up at the top of your tibia, and it's called the peroneal longus muscle, which goes down the lateral side of your leg, and it wraps around the femur attachment down, and it wraps underneath your fifth metatarsal and your cuboid bone in your foot, and then it wraps around to the attachment about in between your first and second metatarsal in your foot. Now what's happened is I've got a new pair of shoes, and I obviously wasn't aware enough of my body that my peroneal longus muscle was tight, and when I was rolling, etc., I didn't feel the tightness. Usually if you have a knot or something in the muscle, you can feel it and then you can work on that, but I didn't have any signs of pain or anything, and because of that tightness, it was actually pulling on that tendon. And when I got a new shoe which has a little bit of a higher arch than what I'm normally used to, I pronate, so I have a very stable shoe, and I changed shoes this time around, and that tendon has just been pulled and aggravated. Now one of the other problems that I have is my cuboid bone in my foot sometimes gets stuck down, and I need to do some manipulations to that to just make sure that it's mobile, and my foot's reacting on the floor when I run how it should be. So just one of the things that I do is I basically locate where that cuboid bone is. So I run along my fifth metatarsal, and just underneath that is a cuboid. So I get my thumb just at the bottom of that, and I pinch it with my pointer finger at the top, and I put a lot of pressure just in that cuboid bone at the base of my foot, and I push my toes inwards and push on that cuboid bone, just making sure that I am getting some movement in there. And this is something that I do myself because I know that I have this problem. The other thing that I can do is I can pinch it on the other side and grab the base of my fifth metatarsal and just move it just around. And if it is stuck down, then I feel a little bit of a pop there. Now I do a little bit of rolling just with a tennis ball at the base of my foot, just to make sure that my feet are loose, and that's something that I do often anyway. It's not something that I'm doing specifically for this injury. Now I use a couple of different rollers. I use a roller which actually has these points which I can use for pressure, but mainly I use just a normal foam roller. And for this injury, I have to roll that peroneal longus muscle, which is running down the lateral side of my leg. So I'm just going to place the roller on the floor and put my lateral side of my leg just below my knee on. Now I'm quite tender there. My physio's been working it and I've done a bit of dry needling, so I don't have to be putting much pressure on there. I can get nearly enough pressure just by putting my foot on the medial side of my leg and using that pressure to roll it. Now if I wanted to put a little bit more pressure, I can lift and roll. And just finding where the point is that's sore and sort of lingering there for 30 seconds to a minute, and making sure I'm not staying there for too long. I don't want to be bruising the area, I don't want to be causing discomfort, otherwise that can cause more problems. I pretty much roll the rest of my leg as well, all around it. So I take the weight off, keep that weight on there and roll all around that area and my calf muscles, because when I'm running I'm utilizing those calf muscles a lot. I don't get a lot of quad pain, but again I do roll them, and what I actually find a lot better to do than putting my body weight onto these muscles is I longboard, like skateboard. So I've got a longboard wheel and I've got bearings in here and just a screwdriver. And you can buy specific rollers for this, but I usually just get that and then I can roll my quad muscles. I had a knee reconstruction, my ACL, so I get a little bit of pain in my right knee if I don't roll my quads enough and they are a little bit tight. It puts pressure on my patella and pushes it down and aggravates underneath it. But I've been doing quite well. I've been running on and off for a couple of years since my surgery, and I haven't had much problem at all. I had a hamstring graft, so occasionally I get a bit of pain at the base of where the graft was, and I don't really roll it. I just use my hand and lightly massage, and it's more a scar tissue problem than anything else. But otherwise my knee holds pretty well, and when I run I don't really have a problem there. So one other thing that I do myself is I get a little bit of referred hip pain. So I start off just getting my thumb and just at the base of my hip, I sort of push in and find some tender points, which is usually around my hip flexors. Just making sure that I sort of push and massage any tender points that could be there, and I do it on both sides. It doesn't have to be hard, but it is, there are a lot of deep muscles in that area, so it takes a bit of force to get in there. And then I'll get the foam roller and I'll just put it on the side and roll on my hip. If you're running and you do pronate and your hip goes out a little bit, then you can get a lot of tension through that area. So that's something that I do. I just roll this area out, and it is a bit tender, so I just sort of linger, and I'll actually lift my foot up and hold it there for a couple of seconds. After I've finished all my rolling, then I'll usually get a bit of Voltaren gel, and I don't put this on all the time, but because I've got the injury, I'm going to be placing it just where there is a little bit of inflammation after my dry needling, etc. and then just where this tendon wraps around the fibula, because that's where some of my discomfort is, and then down underneath the foot. So I just rub that in nice and generously, and that's what I do before I head to bed, to make sure that just overnight my body's got that ability to reduce some of the inflammation that's there, ready for the morning where I generally go for my run. I don't want to be too inflamed in the morning, and a lot of the time if I do wake up a little bit sore, I repeat all of this rolling to make sure that I don't injure myself anymore during the run. This is really important for me, especially in my injury recovery. So I'm sharing it. If anyone has any comments or any feedback, please put it in the comment section. But remember to subscribe so you can get my latest videos, and I want to say thank you very much for continually supporting me.